choice is to be saved.
Welcome. You are about to take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show. For the next hour, allow her to prepare you in becoming a magnet for a profound love-infused relationship by identifying and focusing on solutions through love. Awaken the light within and let your essence shine. And now, here's Deborah Beauvais on Love by Intuition, all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Bonjour, mes amis, and yes, here I am, Deborah Beauvais, founder and owner of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. If you're tuning in for the first time, we are Boston-based, we are global. You can listen to us anywhere you are on the earth, and maybe beyond, too, I don't know. But we are a full producing station. You can ask Alexa to play the station. You can go on any of your favorite podcast directories, and we're there. But the live shows are right on dreamvision7radio.com. And I am welcoming back a guest that I had back in January. So if you would like to hear that first show, you can Google her name, Elli Laks. It's Ellie, just as it sounds. Laks is L as in love, A-K-S. So do a search on that and listen, because I know there's going to be information there that may not be heard this time around. But I was so excited about her new book and what she was doing with cow hug therapy, and wanted to have her back so she could explain and share with all of you out there. She's the founder of The Gentle Bond. She is responsible for the daily care of all the animals and programs at The Gentle Bond, which has been inception since 1999. It now is the home of nearly 200 animals in 3 particular states. One, the base, as I would say, Santa Clarita in California, Nashville, Tennessee, which my family's there. My sister's moving down in a couple of weeks, and St. Louis, Missouri. And she has healed, along with staff members, volunteers, and her amazing, phenomenal husband, Jay Weiner, all these animals that have been, really, they needed rescuing, and we're going to talk about that. But what they have done is they have actually, the inner city special needs kids have learned from these animals, healed from their own traumas through the animals. So without further ado, first to say, her new book, Cow Hug Therapy, How the Animals at the Gentle Bond Taught Me, and Life, Death, and Everything in Between. So welcome, Ellie, back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Thank you. I am too. I just had such a great time, and the energies that were just blending together. I felt all the love, and you're just a beautiful soul, and you can feel that. And the work that you do is remarkable.
Thank you. It takes one to know one, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's get into, I have all these things I want to ask and such. For those out there, Ellie has, since a child, been connected to animals. And when I think about it, you are communicating, you're an animal communicator today, totally vested in it now, where before you may have not been 2 feet in, as one would say, but you actually did animal communication when you were a little girl. So there's so much there that we talked about in the first show, but let's get into the cow hug therapy. I know that you had your precious Buddha, so tell us about Buddha and how the cow hug therapy all came to be.
First, I'd like to say that I write in this book, Cow Hug Therapy, about my journey with animal communication. how I did it as a child,
Yes.
how I didn't want it as a teenager because there was shame and embarrassment associated with it, and how I returned to myself and my gifts to claim them freely. So that is part of this book. But Buddha is my very first cow. And I knew that I was going to love her. I knew that she was going to be special. She blew me away on our first open to the public Sunday when she laid down and encouraged guests to come over and brush her and pat her and be with her. But it wasn't until later that same night that I said goodnight to all the animals and kind of passed by Buddha with like a pat on the head, and she looked at me and said, I need more. So I stopped and went back to her, and I sat next to her and kind of leaned my back against her shoulder. And what she did next changed the course of our lives and changed the work that we do here at the Gentle Barn. She wrapped her neck around me and held me. And I was so astounded by this unexpected show of affection and nurturing and love that she was showing me that I burst into tears and cried out the stress of the day on her shoulders. She washed away the day. She made me strong and hopeful and prepared me for the next day. And I started doing that every single day. I relied on those evening hugs. And before long, I realized I can't possibly keep this remarkable brand of healing to myself, and I need to share it with others. And soon I opened a phone book, and I started inviting people out from drug and alcohol rehab centers, domestic violence shelters, homeless shelters, war veteran centers, foster agencies, inner city schools, and let them know that there's a unique brand of healing that's happening here at the Gentle Barn. It's restoring me every day, and they should come get some. And they did. These agencies started bringing their clients, and people started healing alongside these animals, and the word quickly spread. And we have been doing cow hug therapy now for 25 years at the Gentle Barn.
Oh, my gosh, I didn't know it was 25 years.
Yeah,
Oh, my
since 1999.
gosh. That's when it all started with the cow hug therapy?
Yeah, with Buddha.
Wow. Wow. Now, do you find because the cows are large, people are apprehensive, maybe a little fearful of being, maybe stepped on, or any of that? Does that happen, and how do you overcome that?
So there are all kinds of different people that come for cow hug therapy. Some people are obsessed with cows and they dive right in. Other people are absolutely, like you said, more standoffish, more worried. I mean, some of our cows weigh 3,000 pounds and are 7 feet tall. So, it's not like the typical dog encounter. But we model for them hugging them and laying with them and petting them. We tell their stories. We show how gentle they are. And before long, no one can resist.
Yeah, I can understand that. What I remember from when we talked before and in the book when you were talking about cow hug therapy, what was just remarkable and phenomenal and magical, every word that you could grab, it would be on this cow hug therapy. When someone is with the cow, you were speaking of all the other cows that would come in a circle around the cow that is helping heal that particular person. And to me, that innate knowing to come together, and they're cows, but they have personalities, they have souls, and they just know when to come together and when there is a need. Is that something that when the first time that happened, were you like in shock?
One of the most remarkable things about cow hug therapy at the Gentle Barn is that these cows understand what the people are going through, even when we don't. When people book a cow hug therapy session or even come for a tour or an open to the public Sunday, we don't know their situations or their stories. We just connect them with the animals. But these cows absolutely know intuitively what they're going through. And if they know somebody just needs to lighten up and laugh, they lick them or do silly, sweet things to make them giggle. If they need to be centered, grounded, and still, they meditate alongside these people and really give them a place to land. And when people are in trauma or in grief and crisis, the cows will wrap their necks around these people and hold them for an hour. And it's extraordinary to watch. The cows know so much more than we give them credit for. They are wiser beyond belief, and they are absolute healers, there to give of themselves to these hurting humans. And it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, I can feel that and see that. Yeah, and there's so many people that need that attention and love, and it all goes back, I think, to everything is within, that we need to learn what's there and be able to let it go, and everything that comes with that. It's a process, but I can see how the cows would really do an amazing job. And like you're saying, it's just innate. They know. And in this book, the Cow Hug Therapy book, there's a lot of you asking questions to the cows and even other animals to communicate and see what their needs are, or what's going on with them. So I want to get into some of that, but first I want to ask you about compassion fatigue and what you went through, which a lot of people, I believe this year that we're in, for everyone, is we're learning to serve others, but balancing self-care. And a lot of, in our community, in the holistic community, I can't tell you how many people have called and said, how do I keep doing what I want to do, but I need time for myself and I don't seem to find the time. So it's balancing and always serving, because that's why we're here. Speak to that, Ellie, because you went through it.
Yes, I did, and you're right. I mean, these are really, really trying times, and I think compassion fatigue is more common than we even realize. When I first heard the term many, many years ago, I thought it was an exaggeration and being overly dramatic. I thought like, it just meant sadness or stress, but the truth is that compassion fatigue is a lot more than just stress and sadness, because it has a hopeless element to it. It's what veterinarians experience and why they have the largest suicide rate of any occupation. It's what nurses and doctors and rescuers experience when they give themselves so completely and yet come up against the most horrific things on this planet, the most horrific cruelty. Anyone that's a caregiver, even a parent, a nurse, doctor, veterinarian, firefighter, doctor, anyone that is in a service profession is going to experience compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is basically when you give all of yourself away and there's nothing left, but no matter how much you do, it is not making a big enough dent in the problem. And so you feel hopeless, you feel like it's never going to be enough, you feel like the problem is never going to be corrected, and you just feel like all your efforts are for nothing. And it makes you want to quit or commit suicide or, leave marriages, leave homes, leave jobs. I have seen horrible things happen, and I've experienced horrible hopelessness where I have myself suffered from compassion fatigue and didn't think that there was any way out of it. And I've had an incredible experience where I was suffering from really bad compassion fatigue, and I write about this in the book, where I was hopeless, I wanted to quit, I got into bed, told everyone that I wasn't never coming out of the bed. And I kind of told myself, like, okay, indulge in your crying and in your pain and in the grief of it all tonight. Just immerse yourself, be in bed, really indulge. But then in the morning, you're going to have to reach out for help. And so one of the first calls that I made the next morning was to my friend Laura Arguigio, who does theta healing and energy healing. And she assisted me in communicating with the mother of the animal that had died, that had created the compassion fatigue to begin with. And there are so many wondrous secrets to the universe. And when we are able to communicate either with animals or energetically to our guides or our higher selves, and we are able to learn these pearls of wisdom, it changes our perspective greatly. And what I was told through this communication was that just like when we're up close to a mosaic and it looks just like a mosh pit of different tiles, shapes, and colors, and it makes no sense, and it doesn't really look like anything. But then when you step back and you can see the entire mosaic, you can see how all of those little shards and tiles create a beautiful picture. They were telling me that that's what life is. Up close, none of us understand why things happen, why beautiful, innocent babies die, why there's so much seeming evil on the planet. We have so many questions. But when we leave our bodies at some point and we can step back and see the entire mosaic, then we're able to see the beauty, the rhythm, the order, and we can make sense of things. And so they were basically saying, like, look, right now you're too close, you can't see, but you have to have faith that there's a beautiful picture that you're a part of. Mm. And it allowed me to have more faith to kind of let go and to keep going. And it's a message that's changed my life. And I'm sure that compassion fatigue is in my future. It's part of my job. But when we can learn to identify it and to heal from it, we can keep going and keep serving. And that's what's important.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. It's interesting that you used the mosaic term because I wrote that down. And that's what I see for, you know, what's happening with the world. Well, what's happening, you know, why we're here on Earth, what's happening and why we're here. And I just feel as though that we all choose to come and experience the Earth. It's all about soul growth every time we come, and to know that we're here on a temporary basis. We're not here for hundreds of years. And so one of the things that you had mentioned was one of the cows had said to you, it's blissful when leaving the body. And if you can wrap that around your mind and know that you are here temporarily, but you've learned and you've created, and it's all through the gifts, and that's where the mosaic comes. We all come to find our gifts and utilize those gifts and serving others and naturally healing others, heal ourselves. And it's a mosaic of gifts coming together to heal from the foundation of love. That's what I see. And sometimes it's not, you know, it's not kind. Sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes it's too much. But when you have that foundation of love, that's what fuels you, and that's what feeds you in every aspect, because we are love. And certainly you have found that out with all your amazing work. But that what amazes me is your understanding of what, you know, like you're talking to the cows, like this particular cow was on its way to slaughter, and you were just crushed knowing you were driving by, and what could you do? And they simply replied, no, not to worry. It's blissful when leaving the body. And that's a gift in itself. Difficult at times if it's someone close to you, but that's it in a nutshell. Blissful when you're leaving the body.
Yes, and that conversation was one of the most extraordinary conversations I've ever had. What you're talking about is when I wrote in the book, we were driving on the freeway and a slaughter truck pulled up next to us. And I was in that moment where it's like, oh my God, I don't want to look, but how dare I look away? And so I ended up looking over there and catching the eye of a cow who looked directly at me. And I felt so, oh my God, like she's on her way to slaughter and I'm just driving around, not stuck with the truck. And so I closed my eyes and I connected with her and I said, I'm so sorry this is happening. I'm working every single day to try to open the hearts of humanity so this doesn't happen anymore. And she said, oh no, don't cry for us. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, I'm taking my family home. Going home is always beautiful. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like I've been vegan for so long and my whole life is about rescuing animals from slaughter and teaching people not to eat animals, and this cow is telling me it's okay? What do you mean it's okay? And basically what she described to me is, don't cry for the animals or even the humans that are transitioning out of their bodies, because to go home is the most beautiful thing in the whole world. And in fact, if we truly knew how beautiful it was, there would be none of us left here.
Right.
Right. But then she said, the work that you're doing is not to protect us from going home, because that's only beautiful. The work that you're doing is to light up the darkness on this planet for people that are capable to end a life, or capable of taking a baby away from their mom, or capable of not seeing the innocence in front of them. That's what you're working for. That's the light that you're trying to brighten, to dispel the darkness. And it really put things into perspective for me, and it made a lot of sense.
I bet, because that's quite profound. Yeah. So while we're on this theme, if we could talk about magic. I love horses, which I probably shared last time. And this personalities in every, just like in humans and every other species, the horses and cows, they all the animals have their own personality. So that surprised me. And then I'm reading it, and you're questioning, well, what's going on here? So tell us about magic and what happened there, and that was eye-opening.
Oh, my God. Magic is one of the most craziest stories I think that I've ever experienced. I was brought up riding horses. I, like you, absolutely love horses. But then there came a point in my own personal evolution where it gave me more joy to walk beside them and rehabilitate broken horses than to actually ride them. So, I stopped riding and I started taking them for walks and rehabilitating broken horses that come to us. And we got this little baby horse named Magic. He came to us at only a few months old. He had been taken away from his mom too early, and he was very, very despondent and depressed. And somebody had found him at a horse sale and brought him to us. I thought he was going to die. I mean, he just stood there with his head on the ground, refusing to eat or move, and he was in shock. So I put a chair in his stall, and I sang to him, and I read out loud to him, and I meditated with him, and I painted the picture of what his life was going to look like and how wonderful it was going to be. And slowly, he started to recover. And I had this plan for him that he was going to be the only horse in the world that's never been ridden. He's going to have a virgin back. We're going to take him to explore the horse trails, but we're going to walk beside him. He's going to have all of these horse companions, and he's going to have the most amazing life that no other horse has had. By the time he was 5 years old, he was so bored that he was cribbing. Now, cribbing is when a horse puts his teeth on a metal rail and kind of sucks air into their gut. It's a way of self-soothing, and it's a horrible, nasty habit that usually horses that are kept in stalls and only allowed out when they're being trained or shown, horses that are not able to interact with other horses. It's kind of like a nasty habit for a horse that's bored and not stimulated enough and not loved enough. And I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw my horse at the Gentle Barn, who has the life that any horse would absolutely kill for, and he's cribbing. Are you kidding me? So, and he would do it on purpose. It wasn't like he would do it off in the corner somewhere. He would wait till he saw me coming, and he would run in front of me and do it in front of me. So it was very intentional.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, what is the matter, Magic? You have a life that all horses would give anything for. What are you complaining about? And he just said, he's so bored. Do I see how gorgeous he is? He's come with his really flashy body so that he could hear the applause of thousands, that he could entertain people with his magnificence. And here he is, stuck in this dusty pasture with a bunch of old horses, and he's bored, and he didn't come for this. And he just said, you have to fix this. You have to fix this. And so for years, he kept telling me that I need to send him to the circus.
And you did everything.
How do you send a horse to the circus? I called Cirque du Soleil and asked if they would take him. They said that they breed their own horses. I called every animal trainer for the movies in Los Angeles. They said, I'm sorry, we have our own horses. I tried everything. Mm-hmm. And so we got him his own trainer that came into the Gentle Barn to play hide and seek, and for him, we never taught him tricks, but he made up tricks and taught us the cues. And he got to go out on trail and be stimulated and do all this stuff, and it still was never enough. And he just kept threatening, like, if you don't fix this, I'm going to die. I'm going to go to the hospital and die. And he did colic 3 times and ended up in the hospital 3 times. So the last time, after spending years with this threat over my head, spending years making phone calls and trying to make it right for him, I finally said, look, Magic, I have done everything I can. And there's nothing more I can do. I'm not going to hand you off to some stranger because I know what happens, and I'm not going to let that happen to you. I'm your mom. So I said, look, if this is unbearable to you, then I guess, if you have to go, do what you got to do. And I called his bluff, and he has not made a complaint since. But then what happened was we had a horse. We actually had 2 horses. They were partners. And one of them passed away, and Andrew was despondent. And I didn't know what to do with Andrew. He was so lonely and couldn't be in the main herd because he had been a stallion for too long. He was gelded, but he had been a stallion for so long before we rescued him that he couldn't be with the females. And so I said, look, Magic, would you go in the pasture and just be a friend to Andrew, who's so sad? And Magic said yes, and he went and he became friends with Andrew, and it made Magic feel useful and valuable and important. Mm-hmm. And then once that was settled and he had done such a good job, we partnered him with another horse named Hero, who is blind, and said, Magic, now can you take care of her? And he did. And then our lead horse passed away, and I said, Magic, what do you think about being the patriarch? Like, horses are usually matriarchal, but we didn't have a matriarch that was suitable. So I said, what do you think about taking care of the whole horse herd? And he rose up to the challenge, and instead of being greedy and selfish, he gave to the whole herd. Instead of causing arguments, he settled disputes. Instead of rushing to dinner, he held back, letting his family go first, and he stepped up as the leader of the equine family, and he became a star, and he realized that serving others is way more meaningful than applause. And he was heralded as a hero, and he had a wonderful life after that.
I find that just incredible. You're really describing what many humans experience, and here the horse is experiencing very much the same, from needing the attention and all of that to finding the depth of what love is and compassion and helping others. I just find that it's just remarkable. There's so many words we could add to it, and I'm enthralled by what you're sharing, and we need to take our break now, Bob, if you can, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Experience a different yet profound healing with Reconnective Healing. Includes yet expands beyond any and all known forms of energy healing. The Reconnective Healing spectrum is comprised of the full healing and evolutionary continuum of energy, light, and information. It allows for healings that are not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, yet go beyond that to bring healing that includes the evolution of your very being and essence. Deborah Beauvais, trained and certified by world-renowned Dr. Eric Pearl, offers appointment hours at Seacock Family Chiropractic in Seacock, Massachusetts. For questions or to set up both distance or local sessions, call Deborah at 508-431-1959. Again, 508-431-1959. Or go to lovebyintuition.com. That's lovebyintuition.com.
Calling all authors. Have you been considering an audiobook? Well, look no further. Come take advantage of Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's unique in-house audiobook production, which includes benefits and bonuses from our radio station. Let our knowledgeable staff guide you to create the audiobook you've always dreamed of without breaking the bank. Check out our full one-stop service from A to Z, including the ACX process. Schedule a free consultation by calling 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or go to dreamvision7radio.com.
After narrowly surviving the attack on Sandy Hook Elementary, first grade teacher Caitlin Roy DeBellis was left searching for answers that would never come. Eventually, she chose to focus on questions that could be answered. How do I make sure this tragedy doesn't define us? How do we get our control back? Those two questions led her to found the 501c3 nonprofit organization Classes for Classes. When gifts poured into their classroom, she decided they would help someone else by paying it forward and being kind. This developed into a social network which allows K-8 classrooms to connect so that every student in the United States can learn these crucial lessons. Classes for Classes' mission is to build students' social-emotional intelligence by connecting them to care. All C4C projects are crowdfunded. Any teacher in the U.S. can visit classesforclasses.org. That's classes, the number 4, classes.org. Sign up today.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back. This is a live show. Bob is in the house, and you can call in, ask a question of Ellie or myself, and don't be shy and don't wait until the last minute. The number here is 833-220-1200. Again, 833-220-1200. If you'd like to get in touch with Ellie, you can go on her site. It's simplegentlebond.org. Again, gentlebond.org. She has written 2 books. The first one is The Gentle Bond, and the latest one that just came out is Cow Hug Therapy, How the Animals at the Gentle Bond Taught Me About Life, Death, and Everything in Between. Get the books and give them as gifts because it opens up your mind and hearts around animals. If you're not, if you're not familiar with the incredible minds that they have and spirits. So, okay, so Ellie, getting back, I wanted to just say that you can feel the love that your husband Jay has for you, and he knows, he can read your mind, knows what you would like when you hear about, an animal that needs to be rescued. And then he's on a plane and he's talking to the people to save mothers and the babies and all these things that he does. So he in himself he really gets you, Ellie.
Yeah, he's remarkable. He is such a hero, and he took my little dream and just made it this huge, big national organization. He goes into the darkest places on this planet and brings animals from the jaws of death home so that we can heal them. He has worked so hard to expand our mission, and I couldn't have done it without him.
I can see that because it's a job. I mean, when you think about it, I'm reading about, and I think I read about it before, about the golden calf, where you actually had, and he knew what you wanted and agreed. And thought it was the best thing to bring that calf into your home. I was like, oh my gosh.
That was one of the best experiences of my life, hands down. Yeah, I was right in the middle of the pandemic, and we rescued this little calf from inside the slaughterhouse. And he was dying because of his pneumonia and the heat. It was 106 degrees, and we couldn't lower his temperature enough to save his life. And Jay and I both looked at each other and said, let's bring him in the house. And that's something that typically I would think I would say for sure. I mean, that's definitely something I would say, but I never dreamed that it was something he would agree to, let alone say himself. And we had John Lewis inside our house for the first 9 months of his life, and it was heaven.
I can see where you'd be in heaven, yes. It's just something. And it was 4 months, if I recall, 4 months that he was there in the house. And then I think you had, what is it, separation anxiety, because he wanted to, when he was ready, he wanted to go play, and you wanted to keep him your little one.
John Lewis lived with us for 9 months. And once he was 6 months old and cleared health-wise, I started walking him around the property and introducing him to the other animals. And eventually he would go into the cow pasture and have a little play date with the volunteers watching them while I went to work, and then I'd pick him up at the end of the day. And when he was 9 months old, I went to pick him up to bring him home, and he would refuse to come. And I pulled and pushed and bribed and tried everything I could, and finally he looked at me and was like, "Mom, I'm a big boy now. I want to be with the other cows." Yeah. And I walked up the path alone. It was I was so proud of him, and I was bawling my eyes out at the same time.
Yeah. You have learned so much about yourself through this, through all these years of being there for, being the mom, being everything that you need to be and more. So when you look back on all the things that you have learned, what is the most prominent for you? Is it self-love? What is it, Ellie?
God, that's a really good question, and it's really hard to pinpoint just one thing because, like you said, I have learned so much. But if I had to choose one, I think it is the way that I look at death. When I dreamed of the Gentle Barn when I was 7 years old, and when I fantasized about having the Gentle Barn my entire upbringing until finally in 1999 I founded it, I knew that I was going to love every single solitary animal that I said hello to. But what I did not factor in is animals have shorter lifespans than we do, and for every single animal that I said hello to, several years later I would be saying goodbye. And the level of loss that we've experienced is unlike most normal people. We have lost, too many animals to count. And it has been really, really hard. And I remember at one point thinking, if I don't figure out a different way to approach this is going to eat me alive, and I'm not going to survive it. And so it's the animals themselves that have taught me the most about quote-unquote death. And I talk extensively about that in my book, Cow Hug Therapy. From Buttercup, the cow, teaching me how to walk somebody home. Her 7-month-old son got really ill and was passing away, and instead of being scared or panicked or frantic, she just very peacefully and calmly went over to her son, licked him, whispered in his ear that it was okay to go, and she walked him home. And that set the example for every single solitary animal that dies at the Gentle Barn. That's how we walk them home, because of Buttercup. Then she taught me that once he was laid to rest, she got to grieve over the loss of their physical experience, and she mourned and she cried, and she had a beautiful family encircling her and supporting her until she was able to move forward. Then, instead of being a broken shell of a being because of her loss, later when we rescued 5 other orphaned calves that needed a mom, she adopted them all, nursed them, gave them her milk, and took what she had and gave it to somebody else, which was a huge life lesson. And then it was our cow karma that really taught me that there's no such thing as death. As a matter of fact, because I've had so many animals tell me this, the word death is not really used at the Gentle Barn. It's kind of become known as a dirty word. There was a beautiful
we're
matriarch.
All eternal.
Yeah. We're all eternal. There's no such thing as death. We leave our bodies. We come in and out of form. But the life and the love and the connection are never, ever, ever lost. And I have learned that so many times from animals that are saying, I'm right here. I will never leave you. And it's really true.
And that's so comforting to know that. And if only people the human could realize that's the same with all of our tribe that we have when we're here. All our loved ones that have crossed over, they're still here. It's just that we're not vibrating at a high enough frequency to see it, but we can surely feel it. But I also understand, from a personal level as well, is that you wish that the physical was here and that you were sharing things in that way. Yes. Life can be so... Go ahead, yes.
Oh, I just was going to say, what I've come to learn from these remarkable animals, both at the Gentle Barn and belonging to clients of mine for my animal communication, they keep repeatedly saying they're still here. And what I've come to learn is it's not the ending of a life or a relationship, it's just the changing of a life and a relationship. So instead of opening our eyes and seeing our beloved, we can close our eyes and feel them, connect with them, and hear them still.
Beautiful, yes. And so it is, yes. So we are, I want to give out your information, and let me, because we're at the last break quickly because of the earlier one that we extended, so tell the listeners, what do you need? Do you need donations? And I should mention, when they go on your site, they see all the animals there with the names, and you get to know each one. But what would you love to receive for the animals right now?
Thank you for asking that. Really, we need funds. We, at our California location, we are going into fire season. We are in fire season, I should say. Just this last weekend, there was a fire across the street from us in front of us, and there was a fire behind us. We are at the mercy of our fire department. We are at the ready to evacuate our animals when we need to. We've got trucks and trailers and water tanks, but we need more. We need more trucks, more trailers, and more water tanks so that we could really protect ourselves and defend ourselves when that fire comes. We are in Santa Clarita, which is very dry and brown right now, and fire season is real, and it's scary when you're responsible for 130 animals. So we are about to launch our Fire and Summer campaign, where we are actively seeking donations to get more trucks and trailers to be able to arm ourselves with what we need to provide for our animals and to get out if we need to. We've already been evacuated by 2 fires in 2007 and in 2019. I pray that we be safe this year, but the fire season has just begun, and it won't end until November. So anyone that can support us in any way can go to gentlebarn.org and make donations, and keep us in your thoughts and prayers that we are safe and sound and we can continue doing our work.
And I'd like to add that you can sign up for her newsletter and be on top of things with what's happening with the different animals and just getting to know each one and why each one is so special. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes after the break.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition Show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be loved. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids Children's Book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times best-selling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love Crying and Laughing Through Mayhem to Miracles. Sacred Stories of Transformational Hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
It's a child's job to play, to learn, and to have fun. It's an adult's job to keep them safe. Did you know that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 18? Every day, families enter the Children's Advocacy Center because a child's courage to tell someone what happened to them. Keeping our children safe starts with a conversation. This is Michelle Aranger, Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center. Learn more on how to keep your child safe. Visit cacofbc.org. This message made possible by the Fall River Rotary Club.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back. Our number is 833-220-1200. Bob is in the house and can put you right through. But hurry, as I say. To get in touch with Ellie, again, it's gentlebond.org, and you can give a donation to a specific animal if you would like. But I think it's neat to receive her newsletter and see what's happening, and you can donate at any time. So one of the things I'd like, if you could tell a little bit about Adriana's story and how involved and vested you were in helping her.
Oh, that was a wonderful, wonderful experience. So this is at the Tennessee location, and we partnered with a foster agency to bring their kids out to meet the animals and heal among them. We had 3 different groups going, one very small children. The next one was kind of tweens, like between the ages of, 9 and 12. And then we had a teenager group. So there was an 8-year-old that came to the Gentle Barn, and the first time that she came out, she refused to participate. She wouldn't look at me. She wouldn't answer my questions. She wouldn't talk. She wouldn't hug the cows or hold the chickens or give the pigs tummy rubs. She wouldn't even participate in the wishing well exercise at the end. And I just left her alone. I think the counselors felt embarrassed, and so they kept trying to get her to participate. But I kept saying, it's okay, it's okay. At the very, very end, though, just as she was about to go into her car, I went over to her and I said, look, you didn't participate at all, and that's totally fine. But I need you to look at me for the next 30 seconds. And much to my relief, she did look at me and give me her attention. And I said to her, look, I just want you to know that it's totally okay how you showed up today. You don't have to participate. You don't have to come back next time, or you can. And if you do choose to come back, you can participate or not. You can just be you, and everything's okay. I wanted her to know that she didn't disappoint anybody or do anything wrong on that day. Mm-hmm. So she left. The next time that she came, she ran down the driveway as soon as she had exited the car, gave me a huge hug, gave me a huge smile, answered every question, hugged every animal. She was fully participating, which was wonderful. But we had just rescued a brand new cow named Maybelle, and when we brought Maybelle to us, she kept crying over and over and over again, and we couldn't figure out what was wrong, although I know from experience that the only reason cows cry like that is because they've had a baby taken from them. So so Jay went back to the farm unannounced to see if the baby was there, and sure enough, there was a baby chained all by himself. He negotiated the baby's release, brought him back to Maybelle. They reunited, and they've been inseparable ever since. Well, when I told the kids that story, everybody was eager to meet Maybelle. So we went over to meet Maybelle, and people were giving her cookies and patting her and hugging her and brushing her, and it was a beautiful thing. As the kids were finished and left the barn to go on to our next activity, Adriana was straggling behind me, and I turned around just in time to see her bend down, pick up a fistful of sand and throw it at Maybelle. So her counselor also saw this and rushed over, took Adriana by the arm, pulled her out of the barn, gave her a stern talking to, and then dragged her back to me to apologize. And when she said that she was sorry, much to her surprise, I told her, you don't have to be sorry. I can't imagine what you've been through. I'm imagining that what you've been through has been horrific. It probably makes you want to hurt somebody or even kill someone. And you don't have to apologize for that. And this little girl was so validated by what I had said that she started tearing up, and we bonded immediately. So later that day, she was in the bookstore, and she saw my first book, My Gentle Barn, and came running over to me with it and said, hey, is this your book? And I said, yeah. And she said, what is it about? And I started telling a little bit of my story and my childhood and some sexual abuse that had happened. And all of a sudden, she started telling me hers. Now, what I haven't said yet was that the problem with Adriana was that she had come from horrible, horrendous abuse, but she refused to tell anyone her story. She wouldn't talk to her therapist or the judge or her counselors. And because she wasn't willing to talk about her story, the judge was going to send her back to that abusive situation. They had to get her to open up. They had to get her to tell her story. So because I had told her a little bit about mine because she found my book, she started telling me about hers. And she told me about the absolute horrific sexual and physical abuse that she sustained. And the counselor was so overjoyed that she was telling me her story that they invited me into her therapy sessions so that she could tell me her story again in front of the therapist. I could then tell the judge, and then she would not go back to her home and she would be safe. And so we did that. I went to multiple therapy sessions. The therapist was able to tell the judge, who then protected her from going back to the abusive home. And the one thing that I noticed about Adriana was she was very composed. She had a perfect plastic smile on her face. She was never sad. She was never angry. She was very, very, very contained. I also dug a little deeper and found out that she was acting out on animals by hurting them, and she was sexually acting out on younger children, and she was kind of working her way towards hurting adults when she got older, and she would have, spent a lifetime in prison. And, it's kind of like she's the double damned, right? She has this horrific childhood, and then she acts out because of it, and then she ends up in jail for the rest of her life. And so it became kind of my mission to really get her to connect with her anger, connect with her story, connect with her pain, to be able to express it. Because when we're holding in our pain, it leaks out in horrible ways. But if we can express our pain and our feelings and just let it out, then we don't have to act it out.
Right. That's powerful.
So we started going into the field behind her therapist's office and screaming out loud. And at first she was very resistant, but she finally did it, and she started screaming and really connecting with her anger. And then the next time she was out at the Gentle Barn, we gave all the kids, including her, bats. And they started smashing the bats on tables, kind of like saying what they wish they could say to their abusive parents. And she had great difficulty connecting to that exercise because, like I said, she wanted to stay composed and contained with a plastic smile on her face. But we kept working with her until finally she started screaming, I hate you, I love you, I hate you, I love you. And she smashed 3 bats to smithereens. And we kept working with her until she was fully connected with her pain, with her anger, with her sadness, with her trauma, with what happened to her and how she felt about it. And she didn't have to pretend anymore. She didn't have to be plastic and fake anymore. And she became a real girl. And she still has a long way to go. We all do, right? This is a work in progress. We're all going to keep learning, healing, and discovering ourselves throughout our entire lives. But what was wonderful was that because of the work she did at the Gentle Barn, she stopped hurting animals and stopped hurting children, and she saved herself from a life in jail.
Wow. Well, that's quite, thank you, first of all, for sharing that story. You did exactly what I was reading in your book, and she's not alone. There's probably more than thousands of other kids experience the same thing and may not have the therapy or someone like yourself to bring for them to speak once they, and then we've got our system the way it is. So if you don't speak up, you're right back to where you started. And it's, that was quite powerful. So thank you for all your work that you did, as well as sharing that. I'm sure everyone, even going forward to listen to the show as a replay, will come away with some deep wisdom from that. So I thank you, Ellie.
Thank you. It was an honor to work with her.
So we only have a minute or two. What would you like to leave the listeners with?
I'd like to say that the animal world is more magical, more wise, more intuitive, and more inspirational than we really believe possible. And what animals have to say and the awareness that they have and the things that they can teach us about our own humanity is so powerful. And I would invite everyone to follow the Gentle Barn on social media, to fall in love and connect with the animals, or come visit a Gentle Barn near them. Read my book, Cow Hug Therapy, and my first book, My Gentle Barn, to connect with these incredible stories. And to check out my website, ellilaks.com, to find out more about animal communication and the work that I do. And, of course, Gentle Barn at gentlebarn.org. We're all the same. We just look different. And I think that's becoming more and more clear as we evolve and as we awaken to love.
Yes. And every one of us, everyone deserves equality and everything that that comes with that. There shouldn't be certain groups. It's every life deserves to have equality and everything that comes with that. And I think it's important to talk about that and bring that, even just mentioning it as I am, I think is important. So thank you again for coming on the show and sharing all the phenomenal experiences you have had, your soul growth. You really have garnished quite a bit there. And so I thank you. I thank you for all you do to help and serve the world, because every day that you do that is priceless, and all of us can follow your lead.
Thank you so very much for this conversation, for your questions, for having me, and most of all, for being who you are and shining your light in the world. It gives me tremendous comfort to know that you're on this planet with me, and I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you for your kind words. My heart is full. So with that said, everyone, share the show, listen to it again, step up with whatever your gift is and serve others, and most importantly, balance it with self-care, and we will all get there. We will all get there because we already are. We're already there. We just don't realize it. Until the next time, au revoir.
Are you seeking a clearer path to love? Then tune in to the Love by Intuition show next week. All designed to your highest good. To contact Deborah Beauvais, owner of Empowered Connections, call her at 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or link on to lovebyintuition.com. Remember, we are all one, and we are all part of the miracle of love.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.